this room, big business, small business, thank y'all for being a part of this. Brookdale Resource Center, thank y'all for just coming in strong. And I love that we're here to share this topic today because customer reviews affect all of us in some way. Do not forget, if you can't remember everybody that we just said in this room, we do have swag bags on your way out, and you can drop your card in the bags, but those are ready to go, and it gives you information about who is here today. So thank you to everyone who provided that. And now we get to our panelists and get the show going. So again, thank you to Mountain Sales for having us and sponsoring this program today, and it's rather fitting that you are also going to participate on the panel. So what I'm going to do is just allow Lauren, starting with you, everyone to introduce themselves and just tell us a little bit about what you do.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Lauren Deal. I am the Director of Marketing and Alumni Relations here at Mountain Sales Academy. I've been with the school since 2021 and done numerous amount of jobs in the advancement office, but this is my second year with the marketing position, and what I think it's really taught me, and it's appropriate for what we're talking about today, is just how important relationships are across all these different departments, and how we can have that base, that core that we all have to establish in building relationships to help make our businesses and community thrive.
Hi, my name is Jason Blankenship. I'm the Vice President of the Better Business Bureau. And good morning, everybody. It's good to see you. Y'all are a good-looking group, most of you. So if I could sum it up, man, it's the Chamber's job to make Macon look like a shiny apple. Somebody would want, come and take a bite of it. It's my job to keep the worms out. And we cover 77 counties, so we're members of a lot of different chambers, but this is home. So.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Kim Ortiz, and I am the owner and creative director at Boost Web Studio, and we help small businesses grow online with website design, SEO services. So we make sure that your website not only looks great, professional, beautiful, but also works efficiently on the technical side as well, so you can get found on Google and also bring in those leads that we all want.
Hi everybody, I'm Ashley Lee. I work for Brasserie Circa and 551 Hospitality. I am their catering and private event director, so anything offsite I will take care of. I have been with my company for about 5 years now, and customer reviews are a very big thing in the hospitality field. So I'm very happy to be a part of this. Thank you all so much.
Get efficient with this mic here. We're going to figure this out. But we thank y'all for being here. If you've ever been to a brew before, you may remember Jason. He is a crowd favorite with the BBB. But it is such a good variety of businesses that we have here, representing everything from restaurants, small business, nonprofit, education, and then of course the BBB to keep the worms out. I love that. I love that. So let's talk about, why do customer reviews matter more today than they did 5 years ago? And actually, why don't we pass this down to Ashley and work our way back up on that.
Let's see, let me look at my notes here, sorry. Okay, so they matter way more often now than they did 5 years ago. Nowadays, people are looking at reviews to decide if they even want to come to your business, to even try to even entertain wanting to come to your business. Especially in food and events, people make decisions fast and very emotionally. 5 years ago, someone might have heard about it from a friend, but now they can get online and they can filter your reviews by 1 star, 5 stars, ratings, things like that, and they can see everything immediately. And that's permanent. A lot of that can't be taken away, and so how you respond to that can be a very big indicator of how you handle things.
Yeah, and likewise, reputation nowadays is not just having Google reviews. Now it actually goes beyond that. Google is actually, specifically Google reviews, now is a ranking factor. So if we want to show up on Google when someone's searching for our services or our organization, then we really have to keep in mind Google reviews. It's something that not only builds trust, but now it also affects the signals, right, of Google, how we want to actually show up on Google or not. So it is super important nowadays. It's not just something that should nice to have, it's now something that is crucial for businesses.
I love that you said reputation, because we do a lot of education, and we're in high schools, and I tell high schoolers that not only does your personal reputation matter, your virtual reputation matters just as much nowadays. For me, to answer that question, I think it's a byproduct of COVID. I think that our entire society became increasingly more virtual because of COVID, and people who weren't using the internet before rely on it more now. And so it's really up the stakes of life. We've seen traffic, substantially increase since COVID.
I'd say also, for just kind of piggybacking off that, it's not only how you handle yourself, like in the digital space, it's you are being watched both in person and digitally, and how you conduct yourself in person in relation to also digitally has to be consistency. It's very important that you have these specific values and behaviors, and that you follow them to a T, that you practice what you preach, and that should reflect both when you're talking and having a relationship one-on-one, right? But also when you are conducting yourself online, and however you are helping people will perceive you.
It's a really good point. That leads well into the next question. And it is funny, the question was, why do customer reviews matter more than they did 5 years ago when you look at the timeline? You are right. That is right when we were in the COVID era. So, Lauren, going back to what you said, when we think about customer reviews, what's the biggest maybe misconception business owners, leaders have with that?
So I would say for us, just in our, in our realm and in education, it's not just that you have this, like for example, like an A+ rating that we have with niche. It's not just about the rating. It is the byproduct of the values you instill and the behaviors you conduct here that then get you to those grades. That's where the testimonials come in. That's where the storytelling piece is so much more important. You have the context that then leads you to those results, that data that you have at the end.
Well, I love ratings. And A+ ratings really mean a lot to me. But it's not this is something that can absolutely wreck your company. I've actually seen a business go out of business from a competitor's anonymous reviews. And it's something, if you're not managing customer reviews, you're behind. You think about it, when you make a purchase, I made a purchase on Amazon just the other day, and there's 18 different options for me to purchase this one product. Do you think I'm going to go with the one that has 0 customer reviews? Or am I going to go with the one that has 3-star, 4-star? And then what I did is I went and read it. 270% more likely to buy, more likely to stay if they see the company respond to the review and see how it works out.
Absolutely, and I'm not saying no. It's a misconception to think that Google reviews or online reviews are just not strategic. They are a marketing channel now. They're super important now for a business. You can learn from them. You can actually, they're a sales tool now. So ignoring having online reviews could be huge for a business.
Kind of go off a little bit of what Lauren said. Sorry. A lot of people think reviews are just about negative or positive, but they're not anymore. They're just data at this point. They're about communication, timing, expectations, especially like in the hospitality world or in a restaurant. If your food takes too long, somebody's going to make a review about that. And once we can see multiple reviews or something like that, we can see that, okay, something's wrong with our timing. It's something that we can fix. It doesn't always mean that something went wrong. If it is a negative review, it just means that sometimes the guest maybe expected something that they didn't get, and then we can maybe try to work on that as well.
Yes, keep it with you
So, first thing I would like to say, when I first saw this question, the first thing I thought of was, when we get a bad review at the restaurant, it gets very personal to maybe the server or the chef that handled that table or cooked that food. Because they might have felt like they did the absolute best that they could have done, but circumstances outside of their, outside of what they can control might have happened, It's a Friday night and a group of 50 people just walked in and just slowed everything down, and sometimes when you're sitting at your individual table, you can't see that. So a harsh one can really, really sting. It can actually stay with them for a while. They may get really defensive or things like that. So as leaders or like our management, we try to let them know, like, it's good to take the feedback seriously and to maybe make adjustments and see how we can fix things, but to know that this is more of a learning kind of data instead of a personal attack on you.
What about also like on the plus side? Because I know I've been places where the server's like, please leave me a review,
Yes.
and we're in a competition, and they make it fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's always fun to help them out on that too.
So it's always a great thing, especially when you're mentioned by name in a review. Our servers absolutely love to see that. It actually make us feel like, oh, well, they're coming here to see me now. And in the service and hospitality industry, the more tables you have, the more money you make. Everybody knows that. So it can be very uplifting to see a positive review. We actually recently just got one that it started off a little weird. It said, when I first heard that my wife was taking me to a fine dining restaurant, I was immediately disappointed. I did not want to go there. And the more he kept reading, he kept talking about how wonderful the food was, how wonderful the service was, how he was wrong, and how now he's already making another reservation to come back. That lifted us up for a whole month, y'all. It really did. Like, we were excited. And, basically we went to the server and whoever took care of that table that night and said, what did you do that was so special? They didn't do anything special. They just did their job. But it's an expectation, and that's exactly what we try to, maintain. Especially with reviews, you see somebody putting a positive review in, but if a guest comes in that does not get that same, that's when the expectations, and that's when we can get data and stuff from that.
Kimberly knows on this. So let's get technical about that then. And this is what you're in the business of. How do these reviews impact the search results, the visibility, and conversions, especially for small businesses?
Absolutely. So, especially and specifically Google reviews, they're a direct, like I mentioned earlier, ranking factor. It's a good signal for Google. And Google is actually looking at different things. So, one of the things that they're looking at is actually the number of reviews that the business has, right? So, and we have seen this. We probably have like two similar plumbers in the same area, the same services. But the one with the most reviews is usually, ranked higher. And obviously that's the plumber that's going to get the most clicks, the most conversions at that point. The other thing that Google's looking at is obviously the star rating, right? So your average star rating, the closer you are to the 5 stars, the better that your visibility is going to be on Google. The next two things that Google's looking at often is overlooked. So the first thing is the recency of Google reviews. So if your business or your organization hasn't received a Google review in a long time, that's also, hurting your business. So Google, the algorithm, is also looking at that. And I think it works for humans too. I mean, how many of us haven't gone to a restaurant or to a place of business and before we select a place or a service, we click on newest reviews to just see the latest experience, right? The people, right? So that's another big thing that also affects the algorithm, and that's well documented by Google. And then the last thing is literally responding to reviews. Google is actually really wanting that engagement from the business. It shows that your business is active, that is really alive, right? And that's most likely going to get them to rank you higher compared to other competitors that are not really engaging with their audience on Google.
So Jason, with that said, we've gone from personal to technical here. I feel like the BBD has been in the business of reviews long before there was even Google.
Right.
Because remember back in the old day, we would see is there any kind of report on this business, or I'm going to report this business, that sort of thing. So y'all been in the business of reviews. But now we're loud and technological and everything is out there. How do these reviews influence customer trust, and how quickly does it get lost if these reviews are ignored or
the worst thing you can do is ignore it. You're asking for a problem just because you see the problem and you don't do anything doesn't make the problem go away. That's the best advice I can give you, especially dealing with the BBB. Don't ignore it. Second thing is, I love that you brought up patterns and learning from that. That's very cool. Third thing I'm going to say is I really encourage you to brush up on the rules of customer reviews from the Federal Trade Commission. That's a big deal because they handed out a $4.2 million fine to a business for fake reviews.
For stuffing their interviews.
Oh yes, oh yes. So I encourage you to post both positive and negative. I'm fixing to I can't give away all my secrets just yet. Too early in the program. But just like you said with Google, I'm definitely biased here, but BBB reviews are different, and we don't take anonymous reviews. If you're not willing to sign your name, you're not working with us. And so we all get those blips. You think you hear complaining. I would love for you to sit with me for a day. We can talk about it. And if you look up our Google reviews, we have 3 offices across the state. And we're 3.5 star, 4 star, and a 3 star because we get reviewed on businesses that aren't us. People complain to us and they write a review like, KFC didn't fry my chicken right. And they review the BBB and give us a 0 star. I'm sorry. But it is. And we're constant. The number one scam in our area by far, just last month we got 41 reports. The second one was 3. Second place was 3. Is bogus website and online purchases. So to further legitimize your business, you have to respond. You have to tell a complete story. The A+'s matter, but you got to fill in the gaps.
Approve your human.
Yes.
So, Lauren, this is interesting because your customers include families, students, alumni. We have alumni in the room and the broader community. It's an educational institution. So how do these reviews and feedback shape perception in a mission-driven organization?
So, yes, thank you. Yes, this is where it's kind of interesting in our department in education because we do serve so many different audiences and it's over a very long period of time. We are actually turning 150 years old this year, February 28th, so we're going to have a big celebration for that. So if you haven't got your ticket, you should definitely join us that evening. But as far as it is for the different audiences, it's knowing that goes back to reputation of just generations carry your story through with them. And it's so important to hear those stories and to kind of give them the credibility they deserve, but also be able to weed through different contexts or different situations like of the times. So I would say that specific to it being mission driven, it kind of goes back to a little bit of what I was saying earlier, how important you're living your values and how that needs to be kind of the guiding, your guiding compass, if you will, for how you conduct your business, how you want people to perceive you. So specific to like what we do for marketing and education, it's really important to that we know our mission like backwards and forwards. And I would say also like 3 keywords I think about like when we look to we don't consider it customer reviews, but testimonials, So we say like it's looking at them with compassion, with care, and curiosity. So figuring out, okay, given, let's say there is an unfortunate situation that happened, well, what was the context? Or were you a student? Were you a parent? Was there an alumni experience you had that was unfortunate? Getting to the weeds of that is so important because we want to understand, we want to learn from that, and that's also part of what we do. We learn here. So I say that to say it's important to do your homework. Like you say, it's important not to just rely on those numbers. And I know we're talking about Google reviews specifically, but for education, we actually don't have Google reviews anymore. They took that away from us last year, so you can't review a school anymore on Google. So now we rely on what I said earlier, niche is specific. That's kind of like the number one education review site right now, but it's thinking about not just those numbers again, not just those ratings, but like the stories and I think we're kind of sharing some of those similar stories, but it's giving that context specifically.
Yep. That's so interesting. I guess you had to take them away if students could flood the reviews and but you still, and I'm actually in my mind thinking 150 years old. What were customer reviews like then? How was that done? I mean, that was pre-cars. Like, these are people showing up and letters. Did they send doves? Like, pigeons? Like, what was that? But, yeah, I mean, complaints have existed for the beginning of time. But, well, let's stick with you, Lauren, for a second. And just because you do get public feedback, and of course social media still exists and all the things, so it's not like you're completely immune to those digital reviews. So how do you balance transparency and professionalism when responding to public feedback, especially when emotions or high expectations are involved? And I even assume like people and minors. So there you go.
Yes, I would say this is one of the more delicate places to handle those that feedback from your families and your students, because we're dealing with those basic relationships of like a mother and a daughter, or a father and a son, or a sibling situation, or a parent with a teacher with a student. Figuring out kind of just navigating those relationships is, and we're in that period of time with kids. We have grades 6 through 12 here, and they are learning how to talk to each other, how to communicate with each other, not just the normal stuff we go through as awkward teenagers, but like, let's throw in, our smart devices into the mix. Let's throw in Chat GPT telling us how to communicate with each other. And it's always learning how to navigate, maybe something that we haven't come across before. So going back to your question about it, of like the perception that goes on outside, it's important that we live our mission. It is so important, and I know I keep reiterating that because it goes back to that core of how important it is that when we teach these kids, when we teach, we're teaching our parents too, even just how we conduct business, how we work together here at the school. It's so important that like we're on the same page in that we share that outside our community. So specific to when we have situations, that maybe are more public facing, that, somebody's not happy with us, that's something that can be a very delicate matter that we want to take offline when possible. I think it's so important to be able to address those types of things, not instinctively in a fit of rage or, how we're feeling in the moment. We have to take ourselves outside of that and ponder it and reflect, and then also be trying to, let's talk to each other as people, because the device is that divider, I'd say. It's that kind of, that breaking point that separates us from being able to have those true word connections. So I just say that to keep that in mind, because that's kind of what we teach our children too. Like, don't put anything like you would in a text that you wouldn't say to someone in person. And those things are really important.
We're going to Jason next, and I love what you're saying, because you're giving us a best practice that puts the humanity back into it and the human-to-human connection on that. Jason, but you see it all. What kind of patterns do you see in complaints or negative reviews that could have been prevented with better communication, like we just mentioned, or just even that review management side of it?
Well, I love the human aspect for sure, and what I would encourage you to do is to not get in the mud with a keyboard warrior. Can I get an amen? But it's the truth, right? People will quickly put on stuff that they would never say to your face. And then, you know, it's old adage, don't argue with a fool, because a passerby might not know who the fool is. That's right. And so, but I wouldn't start the review when you respond to the review. I wouldn't start it with liar. That would be, and I'm costing you on that. But one strong point that the BBB has that we use is we take the emotion out of things. And it really helps with our conflict resolution. And we see where that's a huge ingredient. However, I would encourage you, definitely respond, but you don't have to respond right away. Cool down. Cool down, and you're not talking to that consumer so much as you're talking to the 10 behind it. And so, cool down. It's not personal. You're not going to please everybody. You're not a taco. So forget it. And just go straight, no emotion. And it's okay to leave the reply, oh my goodness, I am sorry that you feel that way. Please contact me. Here's my name. And you know what? That's a great reply.
I like that. Okay, so Kim, there are a lot of AI tools out there that help us monitor and summarize and respond to reviews. Because as much as, like you're saying, we need to respond, this can be overwhelming, especially for a business, especially a restaurant. It gets so many on a day to day. Is there a way that our businesses can use AI well without sounding robotic and inauthentic? Not authentic.
Absolutely. And I mean, I encourage everyone to use AI tools. I think most of us are using it every day now. And it makes our lives much more easier. We can do things faster, more efficient. So yes, use them. And there are, I think every day there are more out there that can help you specifically with reviews. However, I think you have to kind of take your time too to kind of edit through those responses. Many tools out there can draft responses for you and even publish them for you, but I wouldn't go that far out. Let's just maybe just let them draft the response, and then you can read through it and kind of like, even if you remember what happened with that specific person, add, you know, a little touch of personality in there. You know, oh, I remember what happened. I'm so happy that this happened, or whatever the case may be. That's much better, especially with negative reviews. I feel like we have to embrace those. And then just try to make it as human as possible, for sure. But yes, AI tools can help you see trends. It can help you see maybe a certain team member is doing an outstanding job, or maybe the opposite, right? It can help you see gaps in the system, right, in your services. But you have to really keep an eye on it. I think you can work as a team with the AI tool to make you, you know, efficient. Maybe if you have a lot of reviews coming in, you can still handle those and respond to them, but just heavily edit them to make it sound more human.
So we've been using AI for a while with our reviews, not for the responses, but to authenticate. Like, we call it an F score, but it's to authenticate, validate the user, and check the IP address. Because we get a lot of reviews from outside the United States for local companies. We've got well over 2,500 reviews last year, and I think we published 30% of them. Now we're going to jump on it. If it's a problem we can resolve, we're going to jump on that. But there are a huge number of false reviews, and then what will happen is the company will contact you. Hey, I see you're struggling with your reviews. I can help you out.
Interesting. So Ashley, when do you decide when to respond publicly, when to try to take the conversation offline, or if you do let one go?
So, first and foremost, we respond with intention, not emotion. The goal is to never win. It's always to be clear and kind when we're responding to these things. Kind of going off what you said, Mr. Blankenship, was, sorry, is we always respond. We will never not respond. You know what I mean? Sometimes if it's like a great review, we'll go ahead and respond right then and there, to the review. Hey, thank you so much. We'd love to see you again next time, something like that. Or if it's a negative review, we normally try to publicly acknowledge the review, but then we'll move the conversation offline. Especially if it's something like really specific or really emotional, things like that. We'll acknowledge, hey, basically exactly what you said. Hey, we're so sorry that this happened. Is there a good contact contact us here, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's basically, we always make sure to respond. We never want anybody to feel like we're ignoring them, especially if it's a bad review. Somebody has actually left me a personal voicemail before that I did not respond to quickly enough, and then they left a voicemail left a negative review because I did not respond quickly enough to the voicemail. So responding is always key, but always with a good intention, always clear.
I got to say something.
Yeah.
I'm just gotta go. All right, okay. And there's people that game the review process. We've experienced that a lot. Just blocked somebody last week who submitted 87 complaints over the past year, and the latest one was a noodle house in South Georgia changed their recipe, and I don't like their noodles anymore, and they need to give me a free meal. And because of a lot of people, they're so scared of the negative that immediately, we'll give you a free meal. And we see it a lot in restaurants. Well, people will figure that out and they'll start gaming the review system. And it's okay to say, sir, we've already given you a meal. If you would like, you can you can submit a complaint to the Better Business. That'd be fine.
Ashley, let's get back to that. And if you mind, kind of like take us inside. And I love because you really started it by saying you look for these trends. Have you ever changed something in one of the businesses directly because of customer reviews, and what was an outcome on that?
Absolutely. Like I had mentioned before, reviews can change completely how we have conversations day to day with each other, between each other as staff or between staff and guests. It can completely change our training conversations, how to handle certain situations, things like that. Especially when it comes to timing and everything, you might have a server that was like, oh, well, they weren't done with their salad, so I waited until this. It's like, no, now that we see this review, we see that this isn't something that you should be doing. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. Sorry, y'all. So, going back to when we have these conversations about these patterns in the reviews, then our staff feels more confident to go forward with knowing knowing this new pattern, what guests are expecting, what they're looking for, things like that.
Yeah, so what you're saying is like if you notice this trend in the same complaint being made
Absolutely.
on just simply when salad switches to entree, for example,
Absolutely.
like that's something that you can
Absolutely. We even if we have a dish that has less positive reviews, it's like, okay, maybe we need to rework this dish, or maybe take this dish off of our menu completely, things like that. Some people will have a complaint about, just the waiting, like having to wait for a table or anything. We've changed that completely. We've had complaints at Circa about our patio, and we completely redid our patio. So it's just little things like that. Like if we see a few reviews kind of all mentioning the same thing, then we will sit down and try to have a conversation with management. Like, how can we fix this? How can we make this better? Or like, where's the miscommunication somewhere?
Yeah, well, and I love that. And I assume that would also be on the plus side too. If you get rave reviews about this one,
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna.
And that has actually happened. We've had specials before that people just absolutely raved about, and they ended up on the main menu. Yeah.
Right. So Kim, what is that review-related mistake you see businesses make online that's costing them growth instead of progress that Ashley's mentioned, and maybe it's often without them even realizing it?
I would say, and I think it's something we've talked about, silence. Ignoring reviews, I think, has been hurting a lot of businesses. Oftentimes people, just kind of, they see good reviews and they just kind of say, oh, great, we have good reviews in our Google Business profile, but then only respond to the negative ones. And that's not necessarily great. I think people have taken out time to write you a really good review, and they deserve a few minutes of your time just saying thank you so much for it. And then the other way around too is ignoring the negative reviews too. Maybe it's a fake one, maybe it's something crazy and you don't want to deal with it. But no, like I said earlier, embrace those reviews, because I think it's not only great for the algorithm, we're talking about how this affects, right, Google's ranking factors, but I think it's also good for humans, and which is what we're trying to attract, right, people. If we see a business that has some negative reviews, we might be okay with still doing business with them if we see how well they handled it, how professional they were. But if they were super mean, I mean, we're most likely going to be like, okay, skip, next one. So definitely, silence, I think, is the biggest mistake I see.
And I also love what Ashley said about they were responding to positive ones too. It's not just about responding to the negative. I definitely think that's what's important.
Yes, so you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. And I was going to take it as an example, kind of applying it back to in education and going back to like the relationship part of this. Also is how you can conduct yourself in your email communication. You know, what you don't see online, what's offline is like, you know, when we're talking to our parents and maybe there's like a delicate issue that they need resolved, we're reaching out and saying, I'm so sorry, like this happened in this situation, what can we work on with your child to, you know, get them to a better place if there's a situation. And those types of communications offline too with those people maybe you work more intimately with is important, because you never know what they're putting out in the community outside from those one-to-one conversations. So it's always good to keep that in mind as well. Just how you conduct yourself online like that too, important also in that one-to-one communication in those emails.
Yeah, between you and Jason. And there you go, because like you said, if you can't, don't put it in an email unless you can say it to the face. So those are, I love it. Jason's one who was a real example of this. He did kind of a second ago, but when a business receives a negative review, what does the good response look like versus what you've actually seen that has made things worse?
Well, I mentioned an auto body shop that went out of business because they didn't manage their reviews, and it was from a competitor, and it was anonymous. But, you know, again, you don't need to start a review with liar or coward or I'll punch you in the face. Those are great. No, he wasn't responding at all. But I mean, have you ever read crazy reviews? Have you ever searched the internet for crazy reviews? You don't want to be on that list. You know, that's just wrong. But it's do you operate with integrity? You know there's problems. We'll fix the problem. Don't be blind to it. But also, I'm going to kind of back up a little bit with the Google thing, because Google crawls our website every night. But, you know, was it a real customer? Because that happens. What did a marketplace transaction take place? Is it anonymous? And, you know, is this something that can be resolved? Well, that's a BBB review, and we research every single one of them. And it matters. Again, you're not talking to that one. You're talking to the next 10.
We come to a place here, and you've already touched on this, reviews and testimonials, which you're in the business of, and storytelling, long-term brand trust, 150 years here. Where does this play in not just enrollment, but immediate decisions for the future?
So thinking about that, it's our job here to, you know, set our kids up for success for the long term. You know, we're not just getting them to the next state of college or whatever their next chapter is, but we're focusing on the formation of the whole person here and setting them up with those, instilling those important values that set them up for life of what they need to be doing outside of these walls. And we hope with that, you know, established foundation that they want to come back. Like, we want this to be a working relationship with them. So the importance of that part is that we know that, like, our relationship, our connection with them doesn't stop as soon as they graduate. It's knowing that we're going to continue to communicate with them. And that part if you can speak to kind of like thinking about it as, you know, you don't want to ignore a negative review. You don't want to ignore an alum that reaches out and says they're interested in coming back maybe to take a tour of the school, or, you know, maybe wanting to speak to a class about, you know, what they're doing now. Those are things we invite and we celebrate, and we want to bring that back into campus, because that is the type of stuff that makes our school better, that makes it shows the kids that, you know, what they can be aspiring to be, and it shows the alums like what they learned, putting it back into practice and then paying it forward with that next generation of kids. So yeah, it's very important in that way that you're thinking long term whenever you're interacting with a testimonial with a person on getting some feedback on the school. It's knowing that you guys are talking about things in the moment maybe that happened, like maybe there was a situation that put you on, you know, maybe a more negative perception of your time here, but it's knowing that, you know, maybe that was a moment in time. Let's focus on the bigger picture of the long term with building our relationship.
I love that. I think that everybody here who's ever owned a business or worked in a business gets that, because maybe it wasn't just that one time bad salad. It was think about the entire experience and why you keep coming back. And that is how they've done reviews for 150 years right there. That has stayed the same the entire time. So as we close out, just here's a little rapid fire for y'all. If a business owner in the room did just one thing differently with customer reviews starting tomorrow, what should it be?
Well, with customer reviews, I think it's important that we don't incentivize people to do it, you know, at least for what we do in the school system. Like, we wouldn't want to encourage someone, like, if you'll buy something, like, or if we give something to you, then give us a review. Like, we really want to reach out and it be about, like, the relationship, like, oh, you know, like I'm thinking about one of our students who did really good recently in our virtual Model UN competition. She did so well. And that is a parent that was so excited to share with us their experience. But that was genuine, that came to us, and we would take that as an example, like, of, oh, let's bounce off of this and say, hey, maybe we could ask for a review in this context. Like, it's knowing that we're producing good work that then we want to share with other people. We don't want it to come from nowhere, you know, if that makes sense.
Look for the genuine. I like that.
I love the fact that you're not incentivizing customer reviews, because that's illegal. And that's what you need to know. Small businesses, you might not know this as well, but whether you're accredited business with BBB, which is a member of the BBB, or not, you can utilize the BBB customer review system. And with that, we're going to go by the FTC guidelines, because incentivize it to get on their radar, incentivize a customer review. You're going to pop up. Secondly, testimonials this is a legal issue. So you got to review the Customer Review Act of 2016. And then the third thing is please, please, please never make the resolution to the issue dependent upon if someone will take the review or the negative comments down. It is better to resolve the issue and then say, you know, do you mind reviewing us again? Now that everything's done, please. Because there is legal consequences when it comes to customer reviews. It falls under false advertising.
And that the same goes with Google. You can't incentivize. So one thing that you can do tomorrow, I would say make it a habit to get reviews. Add it to your process. So for example, there are services out there that you can have send text messages or emails to your client list as soon as you're done a transaction. Make use of that. Maybe you have a nice checkout area in your office or something like that. Maybe print out a sign with a QR code that, you know, people can easily just scan it to leave you a Google review. If you have products or merchandise, maybe print out cards with the QR code and then just put it in with the receipt and the products in a bag. But just be proactive about it. Just make it a habit.
I think that people should look at reviews with curiosity instead of defensiveness. Try to figure out where they're coming from, what their emotions are. Try to figure out what the problem is before you get too defensive. Just try to be in their shoes a little bit. And like I mentioned before, look for patterns, obviously, and then, yeah, that's all, sorry.
All right, so thank y'all. Let's give them a round of applause. Such a variety of perspectives on this. Y'all are welcome to linger longer and ask questions if you want to. Find the chamber on Google and leave us a 5-star review. Maybe Sherry, something like that, right? Okay. We hope. Yes, and Jason did bring some really great handouts. Are they on the coffee table?
Yeah, they're on the coffee table.
Yep.
Handle a complaint and a customer review.
Yeah, great. So and it's great. It's two-sided, both good and bad.
I think there's going to be.
And we're going to put the QR code. Yeah, okay, good. And we're going to put that up there. With that said, thank y'all for brewing with us this morning. We look forward to seeing you next week at our business after hours and then Atlanta this month for Macon Day. We're going to be back at Brew every month, whether in our morning brew or that afternoon brew. So be sure to make sure you get our newsletter so you can keep up with us. And we look forward to seeing y'all soon. Here you go. Thank y'all, everyone. One more. There you go. Nice brew. Oh, look at there. We got a survey. Good job, Jen.
Jessica, if anybody wants to stay for a tour, I'll walk around.
Yes, absolutely. If you want to stay for a tour of campus, you will get escorted around by the head of school himself. So it's always fun to see the students in action.